Today, Kelly, we're doing...
So I'm going to be razor cutting, and I'm going to be starting out. This was, I think, a shag or a butterfly haircut that DJ had done before. So what I'm going to be working on is kind of taking it into like a shorter length, using some of these shorter layers in here as my guide to kind of take off that length and maybe bevel that in a little bit. And then kind of have more of like a flat baseline coming around the bottom. Kind of like a broken, like 90s bob is what I'm envisioning for this haircut. So as I'm starting out, I was just analyzing what was here before, and we have these shorter layers here. And so I really want to take this section and have that like push forward a little bit. So I'm going to be using diagonal sections and using this as my guide, angling my fingers down to create a little bit of graduation as that goes forward.
Lovely.
That's what I'm going to do.
All right, so I am going to also take this mannequin shorter. I've got kind of a very standard face frame round concave layer going on in there. I'm going to stay within the same family, so I'm still going to cut a round kind of concave layer, but I want to take it a little shorter and closer to the head shape. So when we talk about concaves, basically what it means is it doesn't follow the natural vertical contour of the head shape. It starts to take on a little bit more length and more weight towards the edges. So I can use a series of different elevations and finger angles to give me more extreme concaves all the way through. So when we look at what's going on from this previous shape that's been cut in here, you can see that it's pretty flat towards the ceiling. So really what that means is when I worked this shape, I lifted everything straight up to the ceiling. If I work this way. Now if I work this way, all I did was lift up and cut flat. So if I just change the angle on that, I can take more weight out of this and kind of make it hug the head a little bit more, but I can also maintain some of this length and weight through the edges. I could use disconnection, or I could use finger angle. I could use slide cutting. So I'm going to work on that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot around the head shape. So I'll work the front first and get that in there. We like to work it that way so that the client can see everything happening straight away, so that we're not working back here for like 20 minutes and the client's got no idea of what's happening, and it kind of puts them in a kind of not a good place. So I'm going to start through here. I'm going to start by pivoting off this apex point right here. So I've sectioned from that apex, and it really is, it's just right where the head starts to just turn and drop. So it's kind of like the top of the mountain. So I get to cut this curvature first. And I'm going to follow the curvature of the head shape to begin with, and then I'll change as I work through it. Yeah.
So cut this side, and it's going to be angling forward there. So let me, let's see, here? No, I'll go this way. You can see better. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm taking like diagonal sections here, just enough that I can control my hand. I'm pulling that into that center section, but checking before I cut to where I'm pulling that hair to. And then I really want a lot of texture in this haircut, so what I'm checking for is where that bend starts in the hair. So I have tight tension in my fingers, and then I'm pushing back towards the scalp, and that releases that wave so we can see where that bend starts. Now what I'm looking for is an evenness and density throughout the hair where I'm going to be cutting. My guideline's starting to fall away, so this is going to be my cutting line. So I'm saying that it's really dense in this area before I go in and even start cutting in the line. Sneaky. So check and then bend, and then I'm just going to take out big sections here so that I have a lot of airy looseness so that we have lots of texture, and that's going to give it kind of like almost like little supports coming into the haircut. And then as I'm coming down here, I'm cutting closer and closer to create that graduation, as opposed to coming flat out this way. That would be layering, and I want to make sure that I'm graduating so that I have that push forward. And same with this one. So first check for the density. And then using that, those short layers that were there previously as the starting point. And then just making sure I'm cutting this longer on the top and shorter on the bottom.
So I've just done a couple of sections in the front here, just to see how the hair reacts. I've not cut that part yet, but I've just cut these few sections in here. So what I've done is I've just kind of used the existing length that I've got here and taken the weight out from that, following the head shape. So I'm just looking at how that's reacting and looking at the lengths on the inside. I don't really want it to be too short. I still want there to be an element of kind of body within the hair. So I'm going to work with that. I'm going to continue pivoting my sections off the apex and just using my previous section as the guide. So being really careful not to get too messy here. That's what can happen when you pivot, so just kind of be on top of it. Keep that in mind. If you think clean, then you will be clean. So I'm pulling the section straight out from the head. I'm not pushing that forward. If I push it forward, then I'm obviously going to get heavier and heavier and heavier towards the back. Now, I don't really want the weight on the inside to do that. I want it to kind of follow and hug the head shape. So that's what I'm going to work with. I'm just going to follow through with no over direction. Now the outline, the length, is always going to get longer towards the back anyway because the hairline drops as soon as it gets behind the ear. So you're always going to have that mullet kind of effect anyway. So I don't necessarily need to start pulling away from the back to maintain any length. This is more about what's going to happen with the weight as it falls on the inside. So I'm going to follow the head shape around. So pie sectioning, pivoting my sections from that central point on the apex. That's probably the hardest part of the haircut, is maintaining the cleanliness of that. And just again making sure that I'm pulling that straight out from the head shape. So as I'm now moving into the sides, the hairline is dropping. So I'm not over directing, but my elevation is staying exactly the same as those first two sections as I work through. Bless you.
Thank you.
So what that means is, because when I cut this piece right through here, the hairline's right there, so it stops right there. So that right there is my elevation all the way through this now. So this will get brought up to that spot and start to maintain, or allow me to maintain length and weight towards the edges. So as I'm coming down into this bottom hairline, you're starting to see it getting a little heavier, a little longer. So again, that's from following that all the way through now. So whatever reaches gets brought up to that. You don't change anything through the top.
So I'm working into these side panels here, and as I'm coming through, I'm over directing these back so that we're getting that really nice shape as that pushes forward. I've decided to leave this little like 1 inch section out as I'm coming through, because I don't want to over layer that. I really want to make sure that I've got a really nice solid outline here. So I'm just going to leave this disconnected for now, and I'll do the same on the other side, so that way it's kind of giving me a little bit of safety as I'm moving into you know, the top and the layering to maintain all of that weight and density for the outline of the haircut. So coming into this side panel, I'm taking more horizontal sections now. I'm pulling that like straight back towards the wall. And then I'll be coming in underneath here because I can see where that, I'm working shorter to longer into that one. So each section, just pulling straight back so it's kind of like flat out of the head this way. Then leaving that little piece right above the ear so we don't get that hole. It's going to be a really layered bob, but I want that strong outline. So making sure that I'm holding it in the right place before I start cutting. Coming in underneath here. Starting it shorter and then working my way up to longer on the top.
So I finished that first panel through here, and as I work these last few sections, so right here where this hairline really just starts to drop off here, what I've done is I've followed the guide, but then I've just left that last inch, half an inch out, so it gives me that kind of disconnect and gives me these pieces on the edge. So I could have clipped that away if I wanted to, but all I did was just stop and not cut all the way through. And it just gives me that nice kind of feeling to it. And it adds a bit more leanness because it stretches this out now, so it's going to make that face look a lot skinnier and leaner. So now I'm going to work this side through. Now, body position for this, the way I've approached it, is my fingertips are pointing towards the apex. So I'm actually working out of the haircut. I'm not working from the hairline in. And that's because I want to leave those edges. And if I work towards the edge, I can always have that luxury of leaving more weight or taking it away. If I work from it, it's too late. You've already got rid of it. So working to it instead of from it. So it requires a little bit of a different body position so that you can work through. So on this, what I would be doing is, instead of kind of trying to climb over your client, I would have them turn their head with each section that you cut so that you can stay consistent. So yeah, let's do this. Pivot from this one. So again, just pivoted sections from the apex, using the previous as the guide, but using no over direction. So I'm not going to bring this into over place that section. I'm just straight out from the head and I'm following this guide. So working all the way, just following that natural frontal, whatever lobe area of the head shape. So everybody's is uniquely theirs. So copying that is really good because that's where it's going to fall. It's falling on their head shape. So I'm not cutting a flat line or anything like that because that's going to leave too much weight in here where everything will point into the middle. So again, pivoting off that apex. Just the previous. The mirror is going to be very important with this haircut. Anytime you're pivoting so that you can stay on track with it, so you can see, just pivoting that around. So now I'm going to work down into the sides. And these are the last few sections where I'll leave this little piece out at the edge there.
So I really wanted to enhance that like heavy weight line, a really nice defined line. So I decided to go in with my scissors here to put in my outline so that it's really defined. So just, I was analyzing here like what I could see the hairline and where it would be the boldest and the strongest, but maintaining all of that structure for the graduation that I just put in. So as we see here, this is our disconnected piece that we left out, and this is where that layering started. So I wanted to give that a really, really heavy line around the front. So that's how I picked that length coming through. So just combing this at natural fall, and then just kind of placing the comb in to let the hair, to have it hold it in place, not pressing it against the head, but just kind of letting the hair float off the head where it wants to live. Making sure to comb this back around. And tap that a bit just so it's nice and loose. Nice and flat. Check if it's even. Good. All right, so now I'm going to release these top sections here. And see what's hanging over. So as I said before, we had like a shag or a butterfly haircut, so we have layers in here previously, shorter to longer in the back. So taking that into account as I'm trying to create the shape that I had in my head, what I'm seeing now too is that we have a lot of movement in this area and not so much here because this is longer hanging over. So I kind of want to connect that fluidity all the way through. So I'm going to be pulling this back and connecting that forward so that it will kind of push back into it. Let me grab it.
Just coming through and cross-checking that top piece, and then I'll start to take this through into the back. And it'll be the exact same process. I'm going to work through. I could, if I want to, section this away, kind of like what Kelly has done, but I'm just going to continue to work through, and I'll just stop at that same point all the way through. The guide's in there now, and so I can take it into more of a visual kind of way of doing it now as well. So I can leave it where I need to, or take it away if I need to. But we'll stay consistent. So I'm just going to continue to pivot. So the thing with pivoting is to never lose the pivot point. If you lose the pivot point, then all the fluidity and the symmetry of the shape goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here again, and I'm going to section the front into two again, so that I can always see where that is. If not, I'll lose that, and then my point will move. I won't be clean with those sections, so that changes the entire fluidity of the shape. That's the whole point of pivoting, is to create mass fluidity from front to back, back to front, or wherever you're working from. So again, just continuing that through. No, it's not rocket science, pretty simple technique, but again, leaving the weight where you need it, taking it away where you need to take it away from. So all that suitability here. So again, no over direction, and I work down. So if you think about it, the last inch or so of that temple area is going to be up in here. So that's where I'm going to leave that. So it's right when I start to get into that occipital area, I really leave that out. And it's going to maintain that length and weight in there. But obviously it's flattening this through.
So I'm coming in here using these vertical sections and taking that layer that we had on the top and the length, and I'm just connecting it, just kind of taking off that long disconnect right there. So pulling this straight out of the head, I can see where my guide is from the length down there. So once that starts to fall out, then I'll go in and just flat blend that in. Yep. I think that's it's important too to really analyze, you know, when someone comes in with a picture of a haircut, not only like to match the texture of what's in the picture, but to really analyze what somebody else has going on. If they come in with showing you a photo of someone with like long hair and bangs, but they have breakage from all of their flat ironing and bleaching, it's not going to necessarily work because you don't have that length there. So it's good practice too with these doll heads for us to really take a look and see what strong shape we could create. Pulling that out, seeing where my length is underneath. Just connecting that together.
So still over here pivoting. It's all about consistency. It's very easy for us to pull hair to one place or use any form of over direction backwards or forwards. It's when you aren't wanting to use it, then it becomes a little bit more difficult because you've got to move now. You've got to put the head in the right place. So, key thing here for body positioning is to line your shoulders up with the angle of the section that you're working. I'm not using any over direction, so I don't have to move to what my guide is. So my shoulders, I'm literally facing my section. So I don't go on an angle, so I don't twist. That helps me get the right direction for the hair to cut it. If I start to do this, then obviously I'm going to start to twist the hair. So my shoulders line up with the section. So I'm literally facing it. And again, I'm working down to about this area, which is starting to become the occipital area. And you can see the disconnect. Oops.
Coming through, doing that same thing. I always like when there's just like that little bit of overhang. All right. And now as I'm looking at this overall shape and profile, as I'm cutting this weight out here on this that mid area, I'm feeling like I need to give a little bit more spice to the fringe area.
Spice up your line.
Spice it up. So I think I'm gonna bring in some short, like cute broken fringe right there in the front. I have like little baby bangs. Shannon Sauceman, is that her name? Mm-hmm. She always has really cute short choppy bangs. Horizontal sections. Vertical section.
I didn't want to say anything.
That's okay. Square layers.
It depends on where you stood, right?
Yeah.
Kelly's
I'm looking at it
floating in
sideways.
the air.
Oh.
I feel like it's that time of year again where we should do a theory class.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So maybe we'll schedule an online theory class through Zoom where we get all the angles and stuff.
Back to school.
Back to school, exactly. So we have, obviously we have our private page, which is where you can find all of our tutorials and lives and stuff like that. We put them on there when we're finished. And that's also got all the series that we've filmed over the years, and step-by-step stuff, a lot of the theory. You guys see the wall behind Kelly. That's basically how to cut hair, how to control everything. So that's basically our theory class. We have that on our private page, but I feel like I'll do a new one as well. What do you do?
Vertical.
It's right
It's
there.
written right there.
It's right next to you. Yeah. And you know, stuff like that. It helps us to kind of identify what we're doing. A lot of us kind of know what we're doing. We just do it. But it's always nice to have kind of a plan, so that you can figure out alternate ways of doing things, and you can tweak things, as we say, change things as you're moving through the haircut. When you cookie cut haircuts, that's not how it works. It's just going to be that look, and then if it doesn't look right when it's finished, you're kind of screwed. You've got to kind of come in there and try and make it work. But if you don't know how to control a haircut, it's not really possible. So then it becomes all about the blow dry. So you do a really different blow dry so that you can make it look decent, but then you have to remember that your client can't blow dry like you. And if the haircut doesn't work for them, they're just going to blow dry something that's not working. They're not able to kind of change it like you are. You know, not everybody's a Jedi with a round brush, so especially me. So I have to rely on the haircut being good and right. So again, all I've done here, guys, is I've pivoted around from front to back, not using any over direction, and I've kept that elevation all the way through, so bringing everything up to that. And then obviously I've left that last piece down at the bottom. So basically everything about an inch above, like when we used our thumb, like Kelly's little thumb technique there for sectioning. This is about a thumb width up. I just disconnected that. So obviously the hairline drops. So pretty much everything under this natural round of the head shape I've left out. But I didn't section that away, so it's not so clean. It's more kind of there, each one. So there's a bit more texture involved, a bit more separation of space. I kind of like what it's doing to it.
Tonight will be the night.
No.
So this as I'm looking at my haircut and moving it around and trying to figure out, because I haven't touched this front fringe area yet, feeling like it's really blocking off the face and not really doing much. So as I'm coming through, I'm like, this is the part that I'm not really vibing with right now. So what would that look like if I took that away, right? Looking at the whole shape of the haircut, what would that do for the rest of the face shape if I removed that and made that shorter or gave her something that's a little bit more framing? And so I kind of like that. I think that's good. Looking at it from the profile view as well. That way you can still kind of see the cheekbone and see the forehead. So I'm gonna go with some shorter bangs in here. Just taking this first small section here. And I'm just gonna freehand it with the razor to give it a lot of that really, really broken. Really wanting to open up the face. This is the work I really enjoy with the razor, a lot more of this freehand work, just kind of sketching it into place. And that same thing with, you know, when you're working with this, with the natural texture in a client, just seeing where the hair is going to sit naturally so that they don't have to blow dry it. I always tell my clients that I like to give them the wake and shake haircut, that it's going to stay in that position and kind of be a lot more loose so that we don't have to spend a bunch of time blow drying if they don't want to.
Cutting with intent.
Yeah.
That's not just cutting anything and then styling it. So I've finished my basic shape in here, guys. Pretty happy with that. The only thing that we do now is kind of just let it do its thing as far as drying, and then I'm going to start to come in and kind of play with this, but I'm not going to do it until it's on the drier side of it. So I'll post pictures and stuff of this finished look later, but as you can see, we've got a much leaner shape on the inside now. And that works all the way around. So it's literally, it's like a pixie, but we're leaving the edges from the round of the head out. So it really kind of just flattens that up. So a really kind of cool way of working these kind of shullet, whatever shapes you want to call them, the shag mullety shapes.
Yeah.
All it is, guys, is it's using a technique you already know, but moving it closer to the head shape. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, we just cut the wheel all the way around. It's there, you know. So, I mean, this also plays into my good friend Ira's theory and technique of cutting hair with the clock. You could use that process of it, because that's exactly what it is. It's just tick-tocking around the head, isn't it? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that haircut. Kind of simple, easy way of doing something. Don't forget to check out our private education page. It's a members only page. It's $29 a month, and you get access to everything that we do 24 hours a day. It's a private Instagram page, so you can watch everything on your phone whenever you want. You can find the link in my bio for that. And yeah, just keep in touch with us. We'll be back next week on the private page, so we'll be doing KDF Lives again. And yeah, we'll see you then.
Cute. Her forehead looks so much smaller.
So much better, right?
Dope.
And we got cheekbone enhancement. We'll do a little spin around here, so it's a really nice profile view. So we have that angled forward. Really cute.
Beautiful.
Yay. Ta-da.
Yay.
They look great.
We'll finish them off and show you. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next week.